Buddy, buddy, boo. Hello, welcome to the This House podcast. Today I'm with Charlie Worthington from Loudon Construction, and we are at his latest project in Gransden. So, Charlie, I'm about to interview you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Great. Right, Charlie, talk me through where we are.
We're in Great Gransden, so it's a small village in, I assume Cambridgeshire still. Lovely spot, sort of older village, lots of historic properties. The site itself isn't listed, but you've got the farmhouse behind you there, and you've got the cottages along the road there, which are all listed as well. So a nice historic site.
Yeah, lovely. And we've got some work obviously going on behind us at the house, but this is your latest project. Now, I've been to your lovely house where you live, which was another one of your projects, which you completed. When did you complete and move into your place?
I moved in December 23. We completed the site in sort of September 24, if only because we were waiting for a buyer for the last property, because we like to give people the option of completing it themselves, i.e. picking tile finishes, decorating, sanitary ware, kitchens even. So we found a buyer maybe middle part of 24, and they picked all their finishes, and then we finished in September.
Now, when I came over there, that's near Royston, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, it's a lovely little spot off. You know, it's really nicely hidden. And did you always know that you would be living in one of those?
No, no. It was my business partner Nick Loudon. He suggested it at one point, maybe 3-4 months after we purchased the site, and it got in my head. And kind of from that point, I always had a view to it, but it depended on how the site went, really. The sales prices on the other ones and all that kind of thing.
So when you were converting it or building it, did you have in mind choosing things that you liked just in case?
I tend to design properties as if I'm living there anyway, or putting myself in mind of who might be living there. So generally they tend to be big enough for family homes. So layout is dictated by that. How many bedrooms can we get in with the existing fenestration, with the windows and door layouts? Down to socket placement. Where would I want a socket in this room? Where would I want lighting? And design it that way. So yes, on mine, I certainly had that view. But by the time it got to picking kitchens and all that kind of thing, it was fairly locked in. Still depending on selling a previous house. But,
Yeah. So you did put some special features into your home, which I saw for you, especially for your 3 lovely children. So talk us through what you did.
For the girls' bedrooms, I connected their wardrobes together, so they had a little route through between them, because they're quite they're all close, but I thought it was a nice little secret, little surprise for them, which they didn't find out about until a couple of weeks before moving in, which was nice. And I put in the playroom, I put a mezzanine above, again just a secret little place for them, bit of a surprise that they weren't aware of, which is cool.
Yeah, you're a very cool dad to do that.
Thanks.
I think. And also, you're really remembering what it's like to be a child and have those little secret places to hide. I think that's really nice. It is actually so beautiful where you live. You've done it so nicely. And I was really interested in how you started, how the company started, how you started as a designer, how you got into this. So briefly, give me your background. If it can be brief.
Well, I did biology at uni. Decided maybe 2/3 through my first year that I didn't want to go into lab work or pharmaceutical sales, which seemed to be the 2 main routes out of biology. I'd laboured for my now business partner Nick before university and between university terms, and I just kind of fell back into it. The design stuff, I taught myself AutoCAD. I subsequently did a course and learnt how to do it properly. All the shortcuts where you go, that's how you're meant to do that. But working on site all the time and having to redesign on the fly where you didn't take into account that the brace or the beam or whatever it is within these historic buildings gives us a better insight into designing on the computer away from the site. But again, keeping in mind how I'd want to live in any one of these properties.
You're quite unusual in that you're very hands-on, and obviously you did learn the trade, from the ground up, as it were. Tell us a bit about Nick, your business partner. What was his background? Always historical houses or barns, or?
So he's a chippy by trade, so a carpenter by trade. He works all over the place. He did stints in South Africa and Australia as a carpenter. He is from Lewes, the Lewes area originally. His first historic building that he did for himself was an old mill, I think in Lewes. And it just sort of snowballed from there. Moved to the area 2005 or something, sort of between Linton and Haverhill, Horseheath area, I think, and just sort of fell into it, I suppose. It's very difficult to get into this kind of thing now because you need to have the gumption to think you can take on barns. You need to have the confidence in your own abilities to approach it without knowing exactly what you're going to do, without knowing exactly what the budget's going to be, without being able to pin down all the details. We do it broadly and it's quite accurate, but you never know what's going to be in the ground. You never know what you're going to find sometimes, be it contamination or ecology or archaeology, although I've never come across anything archaeology wise that's caused a serious problem. Everything else usually does.
Yeah, it must be a lot of problems, but we'll go into the how and the why but what do you love about old buildings? I mean, why would you prefer maybe to work on an old building as opposed to building something from scratch?
I like the way they, to some extent, design themselves. A site like this, you've got one entrance leading into a courtyard. You've got some back gardens, but no access to them from the courtyard side, from the road side, which dictates where front doors are going to be. You've got existing openings, which define where front doors are going to be. Any windows that have been granted, you've got to work around those to a lesser or greater extent. So everything just kind of flows off there once we've sort of established a few rules. Like we like to keep an entire vaulted area within the barn, planning like it, we like it, buyers like it, because you end up being able to show off the original building. The roof line on here we will keep. We have to keep the structure on here, but you can see where it meets, where we've got the valley in the corner, the leaded valley. The roof, the ridge lines all over the place, but we want to keep that. That's part of the original structure. It's part of the charm of the building.
Like you were saying at yours, there's some lovely sort of wonky bits and a bit, which you really like and I really like. But it's working with what is there.
Yeah, exactly.
But also having the vision to see how it can be. And you're right, most people would look at this and think, oh my God, where do you start? It's all going to fall down. So where do you start on a project like this? It's not going to fall down, but...
Generally speaking, we would like to get the weight off the roofs, so take the tiles off, rebuild anything structurally that needs doing, shore it up. We tend to put in a new oak post and beam structure internally on new pad foundations, so that we're not increasing the loading on the original building. Partly because you then don't have to prove it empirically. These buildings have been up since 1841. There's been a bit of movement, but not a lot. So put new foundations in, new structure internally that ties everything together, but doesn't impose any additional loading on them. So yeah, roofs off, oak structure in as far as possible. Yeah, tied it up.
I mean, do you have to be careful with what machinery you use? But can you just use normal construction kind of equipment and tools?
It's fairly standard. I mean, the groundworking company we use are particularly skilled. They've got big machines, but they're incredibly accurate and delicate with them. They've got a grab arm, a pincer that can just pick timbers off the roof, which we did on the previous site. Everything's now on GPS mapping in the same way that combine harvesters are. So you take the GPS map, you load it into their system, and it will tell you exactly where to dig a trench, down to the depth as well. So it's very, very accurate.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So once you've identified a site that you like the look of, I would imagine, is there a lot of barns in this area where we are? Is there a lot of outbuildings?
They're everywhere. If you're looking for them, they're everywhere. It's just picking your spot, because there are some really nice areas in Cambridge, or let's say expensive areas, because that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
There are some areas that aren't going to return you any money, or landowners aren't going to sell you for what they're worth at this point, because it's just not worth it. But we tend to do an assessment of properties sold in the area, work out what we think the end result, what the value of that will be, and work backwards on the numbers. Take off all your costs, and whatever's left is the site value.
Actually, it's interesting at this point just saying, if anyone's watching or is, any of the podcast listeners know of anywhere it's worth getting in touch with you, it's always worth a look.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We do get that sometimes. We've had a couple that we've looked at recently over towards Radwinter. No, not Radwinter. I can't remember what they are. But they've contacted us. We've been to have a look, and we've put a proposal to one of them. It's got permitted development on it, which kind of establishes the principle of residential in that area. But the PD system is, the Class Q is a bit shonky, and nobody actually wants to live in. They're not as desirable as new builds in that area. Change the planning on it.
I mean, I think these kind of barns, when they've been done up, are very desirable. Do you tend to get the same? What kind of people? I mean, do you get lots of different people living in your homes?
Yeah, I mean they tend to be better off, because they're expensive properties, and we have a high specification. It's a high build cost. So they're usually professionals of some sort, or maybe people towards the end of their career, or maybe retired, who just want a nice house to live in.
Your house has been so beautifully done. Every, like you say, high spec, everything, kitchens, bathrooms, finishings, all beautiful oak. It's really no expense spared, is it, on the
some expense spared, but yeah.
But having lived in it yourself now, do you appreciate it even more?
I appreciate it more. I've always appreciated it. I think I love what we do. The funny thing is, you obviously want to offer options for people, but we do try and convince them to do what we're doing anyway, because the whole thing matches, it comes together, it's complementary. So the oak floors, the solid oak doors, the oak architrave, the oak skirting, it all kind of works together.
Yeah.
There are some examples where people have chosen other things and it still works, but maybe not quite as well. You know, tiling in bathrooms. It's very nice getting buyers because I don't want to have to pick, because I don't want to have to rip a load of stuff out if people don't like it. And same with kitchens.
Yeah. That would be heartbreaking, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's just such a waste.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've gone out on a limb and picked things in the past, and people have hated it. We had some properties in Hadstock. I don't think anyone liked the front door colour, which I picked. Okay. One of them definitely had it changed.
So you drive by afterwards and just check.
Yeah.
I mean, but you're obviously into the designing of it, so you're going to show me your brochure and your kind of ideas for here, and it will be so interesting to see a before and after. So maybe how long will it take? Like, what's the rough timeline for this project, roughly?
Once we get started, it'll be 12 to 18 months.
Right.
It's quite quick once we get going, and because you've got so much existing building already, obviously there's a lot of work to repair them and tidy them up, but a lot of the work is done. We're not having to at this point underpin anything, but we might have to. That comes back to unknown costs. So yeah, 12 to 18 months once we get started.
Brilliant. So it'd be lovely to see it when it's done. I mean, so the TVW, we were saying above the date on the wall there, who do you think that is?
Speaking to the previous owner, I believe it's Theodore Vincent Webb, who did a lot of brick-built buildings around here. I mean, it says 1841. The landowner said a lot of the stuff around here has been done already, and this is one of the last ones that he did around here.
So what are we going to have here? We're going to have, did you say four residential properties?
4 residential properties. So one as part of the single-storey building. Number 2, the 2-storey section that pushes into the corner, and then the bit at the back split into 3 and 4.
And then this will come down probably-ish, or what would you?
Well, we don't know exactly yet, but the idea is that that's going to be sort of garden storage, bin stores, I think.
Carport, that kind of thing, or not really? No.
Possibly carport, but I think because the council requires bin storage and cycle storage, I don't think they're quite big enough for cars anyway.
Yeah. So how does it work with the electricity and the plumbing and the landscaping, and do you do all of that? Obviously, yeah. So we've got I think we've got everything but gas in the road, so that'll just come into the site and tee off into the different buildings. Plumbing, is it because there's houses around, that kind of thing? Plumbing, with toilets, and is it all quite straightforward?
Well, we've got sewage in the road, so we can tee straight into that. We've got to be careful of existing services. We know there are some across the driveway here. There's the odd bit and piece running across, which is still live. We've got to deal with that. Just be careful.
But it was used, you were saying, for pigs and storage, like grain. So this was a grain store?
Yep, so it's had various lives. As I said earlier, this section was used as essentially a feasting hall for, I think, Queen Victoria's Jubilee, or one of them. They opened up a hole in the back wall so that the pub in the corner could service all the locals eating and drinking in here.
And we were looking at the floor where the big sort of stone.
Yeah, so there was a silo in there.
Yeah.
There's an existing platform at the back where grain was stored at height, and hoppers, and you can see some of the mechanics for shifting grain in and out in the corner there. That'll all come out. Although we're going to try and retain the floor platform in there,
Nice.
and hopefully maintain the actual timber floorboards there, clean them up and sand them back, and
Lovely.
that'll be a really nice feature.
Yeah, really, really nice feature. And you've obviously got idea, because you were saying there's no windows, obviously natural openings, so you're going to try and bring the light in through the glass doors, is that correct?
Yeah, so part of the existing planning permission has recessed glazed screens within the original main openings. We're going to extend them a little bit further in, and repeat the process on at least 3 of the units, so we can then share that light into more of the building, because particularly unit 4 has no light and no windows on that back elevation, which is all part of the fun of designing these things. Difficult, and as I said, we've got draft plans for all 4 units now, which we're vaguely happy with. It's just one of them which I think is clunky and inelegant, so I'm going to revisit that one.
Yeah. So how long is the design process roughly? Like,
I don't know. I tend. Nick doesn't work on computers, so I tend to print off some blank plans, and so you have a go at it, and I'll have a go at it, and then we'll come together and have a look. We've probably been at it for sort of a month, but it's on and off during that month. But it's a nice collaboration, and we'll both come up with different ideas that work or don't work, and then once you get it in CAD, and I start, dropping furniture into the plans, you go, oh, actually that doesn't work now because that's not quite big enough. And
so tell me about the conservation side of it, because obviously before when we've chatted, you've talked about you have to allow for the fact there might be bats, or there might be. Talk us through some of the projects that you've had where you've had to kind of adjust things, or
so the
rules?
last site we had bats in the 2 main original buildings. We had to phase the build round 3 different sections. So the ecologists excluded the bats from one section. We then built that out, created the bat lofts. Once that's completed, we moved on, and they were excluded from the next bit. And then we built that up, built the bat loft, moved on to the next bit, excluded them.
So the bats stay in the house is such, or they're encouraged to?
They're encouraged to move on in the short term, but the idea was 2/3 of their habitat was always maintained. They can then move into the bat lofts once they're complete, and they're excluded from the next section. So they always had 2/3 of their habitat left. Here we've got the ecologists in tonight, to do their first survey. We don't know exactly what the mitigation will be on that yet, but again, all part of the fun.
It could be anything. I mean, we saw a swarm of something, didn't we? I mean, that was probably just passing through. I'm not
insects,
saying there's anything there.
Not a swarm of bats.
I know.
Yeah.
There was something buzzing, but yeah, you don't quite know what's living in there, obviously.
No. But it's all tied up in the planning as a planning condition. You've just got to follow the guidance of the experts. So we will have to get a European protected species licence to exclude them from the barns. It has to be done between broadly April and October, so outside of their hibernation period, outside of their breeding period. So I mean, timing is always the issue for us. Making sure that we can get them excluded and get on with it. If we don't get the licence till October, November, we'll have to wait till April next year. So it's time sensitive. It's difficult.
Yeah. And what other issues or problems could arise, do you think?
Contamination. You never know particularly on old farmyards, what's been buried. It's often asbestos. White chrysotar, so it's not extremely hazardous, but you still have to be careful. Likelihood is, if they find anything in the ground, you have to skim everything off and get it taken away at great expense to be put in another hole somewhere else. Not by us, but by authorised, waste guys. As I said before, maybe archaeology, but I've never had anything particularly difficult with that. I don't think there are newts here, but there could be. There's a pond just there. East Anglia is swarming with newts, great crested newts, generally. Yeah, and the structure. I mean, this is fairly sound as it goes. It's fairly straight. Those are the main pitfalls. Sometimes getting services in is difficult. The previous site we had half a kilometre to come up the main road to get services in. We originally quoted $250,000 to get the water supply up there by the, I'm not going to name names, but by the local water board. But you can self-lay, so you get a self-lay contractor who will quote you to do the same job. They will end up doing the job anyway most of the time, so the water board will pay them to do the same job.
Oh, that's interesting.
But it was significantly less money. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you're really looking forward to start. When do you think you might start this? Realistically.
I think September.
Really, yeah. And how many people would you have working on it roughly? I know it varies, obviously, depending on what's happening.
We've got a core team of 4 of us. Then we've got ground worker contractors, roofers, plumbers, electricians, pretty much every other trade we will bring in as needed because we're not big enough to maintain.
Yeah. And you'll do stuff, obviously.
Yeah. So generally carpentry work, although I'm not qualified in any way.
Yeah. But you know a good beam when you see one.
Yeah, I know a good beam when I see one. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Charlie, thank you so much for showing us this project, and I can't wait to see it when it's finished. Although it's got so much charm just seeing it like this now. Anyway, I love it.
Good.
Already. I think it's lovely, and I can see it's going to be beautifully restored. It's nice to think that you're bringing, new life. It must be a really satisfying feeling to see it when it's finished and know that people can now enjoy it and use it and live in it.
So many of the jobs on the site which I enjoy doing are those that transform an area fairly quickly. Like bringing in on a new build, for example, putting all the stud work, external walls up. You've then got a building there. Taking the sort of green subfloor and laying oak flooring down. It's that immediate change. You're now, a significant looking step closer to a finished house, to a finished home.
It must be really satisfying. I can see. Yeah, you must take great pride in it. Well, it's a lovely spot as well. Like you say, it's really nice and peaceful, isn't it?
Yeah. Apart from the builders. And seem to be less peaceful, but only for a short period.
Well, Charlie, thanks so much for being part of the podcast, and we look forward to seeing it done.
Thank you very much. Cheers.